75% of people over 50 say they want to stay in the home they are in. 44% expect to move anyway. That gap between what people want and what they think is coming is where most retirement lifestyle planning quietly goes wrong. Not because the wanting is unrealistic, because almost nobody asks the question sitting underneath it. Today, how to design the life you actually want. Starting with the room you're standing in. Those figures come from a national survey of more than 3,000 American adults carried out by AARP. 75% of people over 50 want to remain in their current home for as long as possible. 73% want to stay in their community. And yet, 44% expect to relocate at some point. 41% say they will never leave. So inside that population is a very large group of people who want one thing and are quietly braced for another. The survey asked why. The answers were not about preference at all. 71% pointed to the rising cost of rent or a mortgage. 60% pointed to the cost of maintaining the property. 55% pointed to taxes. That is not a lifestyle choice. That is arithmetic. Here is the question that usually goes unasked. Almost everyone frames this as a decision between staying and going. Keep the house or downsize. But downsizing only ever asks one thing. How much less can you live with? There is a better question. Not how much less. What actually fits? That distinction has a name. Rightsizing. Downsizing is subtraction. Rightsizing is design. It might mean a smaller home. It might mean moving to a place that matches how you actually spend a week. Or it might mean staying exactly where you are and changing the house instead. Because staying is very often the answer. In that same survey, 51% of people over 50 said they need a home that supports living independently as they age. Nearly 3/4 said they would likely need grab bars fitted. 71% expected to need changes to entryways, a ramp, a wider door, better access at the threshold. None of that is a move. All of it is right-sizing. The hardest part is rarely the building, though. It is what is inside it. Every object in a home lived in for decades carries something. That is not sentimentality. That is how memory works. The approach that actually works is simple, and it is not ruthless. Sort what you have into 3 groups: what you use, what you love, what you can let go of. Anything used weakly stays. Anything carrying real meaning stays. And for the pile you genuinely cannot decide about, box it, label it, open it in 6 months. Time answers that question far better than pressure ever does. One more thing worth knowing, because it stops people more than anything else. Letting go of an object does not delete the memory attached to it. Photograph it. Write down the story. Better still, tell the story to the person in your family who might want the thing itself. The memory outlives the object every time. Now take that same question and point it somewhere else, not at your rooms, at your week. Most people arrive at retirement with a long list of things they will finally get to, and nothing to hang any of it on. The list is not the problem. The absence of a shape is. The book this series is built on suggests something almost embarrassingly simple. Keep a journal for a few weeks. Write down the moments that felt good, not the ones you think ought to feel good, the ones that actually did. Patterns show up faster than you would expect. Mornings or evenings, alone or among people, making something or going somewhere. Those patterns are the blueprint. You're not inventing a lifestyle from nothing. You're noticing the one already trying to form. Take travel. The version most people picture is expensive. The version actually available to you is not. Going outside peak season costs a fraction of the same trip in August. Staying somewhere 3 weeks instead of 3 days changes the nightly rate and the experience at the same time. Traveling as a group spreads the cost of almost everything, and the flexibility you now have is the largest discount available anywhere. You can go when everyone else cannot. Then there is what fills the ordinary weeks in between: concerts, galleries, theater. A great many run reduced rates on weekday afternoons, which is precisely when you are free, and everyone still working is not. And learning. Universities across the United States, the United Kingdom, and Europe run open courses, many of them free or heavily reduced for people over 60. Not courses about retirement. Actual subjects: history, languages, astronomy, drawing. Whatever it was you set down 30 years ago and never picked back up. And then there is the one with the hardest evidence behind it. Researchers followed nearly 13,000 American adults over 50 as part of the Health and Retirement Study. They compared people who volunteered against people who did not and tracked them across a 4-year period. Those who volunteered at least 100 hours a year showed a reduced risk of death during those years. Fewer limitations in physical functioning. More physical activity. Higher measures of optimism and sense of purpose. And lower reported rates of loneliness and hopelessness. 100 hours a year sounds like a great deal. It works out at about 2 hours a week. That is one of the clearest findings anywhere in the research on this stage of life. 2 hours a week, given to something outside yourself, moves things that can be measured. So, back to where we started. 75% want to stay. 44% expect to go. The gap between those two numbers was never really about houses. It is the difference between a life you inherited and a life you designed. Rightsizing is not shrinking. It is fit. The right size home. The right shape week. The right amount of everything, measured against the life you actually intend to live, rather than the one the house was originally built for. You do not have to decide all of it today. You only have to start asking the better question. Not how much less. What fits?